Girls of Reddit, what do you think the worst part about being a guy would be? Until I was present for a conversation with my boyfriend and his friend, I had no idea how psychologically taxing dating apps are for many dudes. It seems girls take for granted that they're, in most cases, going to get a variety of likes and therefore options and to some degree reassurance. Feels bad that many guys don't share that experience and get swiped on only a handful of times, with a likely chance the conversation fizzles. I can't fathom how discouraging and demoralizing that would be. When people get suspicious of you for liking to interact or work with children, the stranger danger mindset can be hurtful to men. There was only one male primary school teacher in a region that I lived in. I guess this is likely the reason why. Being shamed by a decent portion of society for expressing emotions and or vulnerability. Every man I know has a story about opening up to a partner, and that partner losing interest afterward. It only takes one time for men to learn to never do that again. Testicles just dangling there all vulnerable. The older you get, the lower they hang. Around 30 you start sitting on them. Edit. Didn't expect this comment to blow up like it did. I've been getting sack updates from strangers all day, so that's something I can check off my fuck it list. I found out the other day you can accidentally brush the end of your, on the inside of the toilet bowl. I'm still shuddering. Image if it was a public toilet hour. Yeah. This is the worst. Also, thank you Jesus for low flow toilets. I have accidentally dipped the tip in the toilet water before. I am by no means well endowed. My wife wanted to know what it was like to pee standing up, so I'll let her steer. The words "wait, why is it going that way?" were the funniest thing ever. Now she understands. As a guy, I am still very much in girls' sides for saying guys are annoying for peeing standing up and missing the bowl because guys could very easily with no hassle at all just sit down to pee. Honestly, men's genitals seem to be pretty out of control from their brains from the stories I hear. Like, a random boner does not sound pleasant, especially when everyone would tease you for it. I would say some have better control than others do. It does what it wants when it wants regardless of what I'm actually feeling. But there are mitigation techniques like flexing thighs that minimize the effect. But yeah, that sucker just kinda does what it wants. Even if I'm feeling disgusted. You get used to it as you grow up. Being seen as a creep for complimenting others. As a man, the trick is never compliment a woman's physical features, eyes, legs, breasts, etc. Unless you know them very well. If you do compliment a woman, it needs to be about something they have done to themselves, hairstyle, makeup, outfit, etc. Otherwise it comes off creepy. Also make the compliment and move on. Don't dwell on it. That also comes off creepy. Not being touched affectionately throughout your childhood. So true. Guys are usually blamed for not being affectionate or not complimenting their partners. But how do you expect someone who almost never receives a compliment to make them? Not being able to have a romantic partner unless you ask them out first. I guess having a ton more testosterone would help. But it would still suck. Christ. I think if a woman ever asked me out I'd just die of shock. The expectations of being HRNY all the time and getting hard easily. While it does suck when I have problems in this department, I do find that my partners are almost always patient and don't hold it against me. There is more to sex than just penetration. And I think women more often than not understand that. Being seen as creepy if you try to make the first move in a relationship, but also being expected to make the first move. Pressure to earn money and it not being socially acceptable for guys to quit their jobs and be house husbands while their wives work. Joke's on you. You can't be a house husband because in this economy you need to both have jobs. Not being taken seriously when I say I'm sad. I'm really sorry guys. I know you have it hard, but seriously, you aren't alone. There sure are people ready to listen that won't say stupid things like man up. Congratulations for being so strong, and honestly, You're awesome. Finding out I have a secret kid somewhere. Friend of mine had no idea he had a daughter until she was 18 and found him online. Mother didn't want child support or anything, but he missed out on her whole childhood. She didn't know about him until she was 18 and found pictures of him, so her mom had hired a private detective to follow him. They both have a lot of resentment to the moment he wasn't really sure how to parent a rebellious 18-year-old female. It is a whole thing. Having no divider between you and the guy using the urinal next to you. That's why you leave a space. For example, if there are 5 urinals, only 3 can be used at the same time, the far left, the middle and the far right. It's the law. Getting boners. Not being able to have good fashion sense without getting called gay. I feel like that's an American thing, no? Being called gay for dressing nicely? I've never heard that here in Europe, and a lot of my guy friends would be well dressed going out to most places, but I could be wrong here. Having to be constantly aware that people can accuse you of outrageous things and by default everyone goes against you and believe the victim even if it maybe isn't true. Before comments come, this might be a bit bluntly written and I am not at all saying that some men aren't awful. I don't want to get a boner when my uncle hugs me. I don't want my uncle to get a boner when he hugs me. Dick sweat. Random erections. DCK sticking to inner thigh. And the expectations placed on a male. It's not usually the DCK that sticks to thighs. It more often the sack. More often than not. When you see a man adjusting himself, this is the reason. Being stuck in this transitional society where if you listen to your grandfather's advice on women you will go to jail. Then as soon as you show empathy or good communication skills you are mocked and ridiculed and compared to the worst thing any man could ever consider. A woman. To be honest. Women expect men to be manly, so being called a woman isn't the worst thing because women are inferior. It's because being called a woman as a man means women aren't going to find you attractive. And before you say not all women want a manly man. There's a big difference between what women say they want and what they actually choose. Being held responsible for every bad thing every bad man ever did. I doubt a lot of women can really comprehend how easy we have it in some ways because we are always kinda seen as either victims or helpless. It also has some serious downsides to it, but no one holds us as responsible for bad behavior as men are. And I don't think that is fair. In my opinion, this is the worst thing about being a man. I could not have said it better. Thanks for recognizing it. The crushing loneliness I hear single men in middle adulthood describe. I don't have many close friends. But I have 1 or 2 I know I can count on when I need to process emotions. I know of several men who would say that while they have buddies they can grab a drink with or play games with, they have no one with whom they can be emotionally vulnerable. I can't imagine living like that for years on end. As a guy reading this, I'm amazed at the amount of girls just saying DCK or balls problems. I've read a couple of actually real important problems, but most of them seem to be clueless about what a guy goes through in his life. It's just people trying to be funny and post easily upvotable comments for karma. I don't think anyone legitimately thinks having to pee in a urinal is worse than the suicide rates due to emotional stunting and societal duty of men. Double downed bullshit imagery of men. So you're supposed to be both ripped and anorexic? I see some of these pictures of men on magazines and it's like, so dude's veins look like they're going to collapse. He doesn't have an ounce of fat on his body. TBH to me. It's a disgusting look and I feel super bad for them. But at least we're just supposed to be anorexic. Can't imagine having to starve and somehow pull off being muscular. Also having no emotional outlets. Every man I've known was so freaking alone. I think females would be surprised how little people care about you. The assumption that men are always fine seems to be pervasive. Having to be the brave one in a relationship and deal with all spiders and whatever else scary bugs get into the house. Literally had to call my husband last night to deal with a live mole that my cat lovingly brought into the house for me to play with. A male. Came here to see which girls would make valid points. And which ones just seem stupid. All they think is having a penis and random erections. Seriously, they don't see any other problem a man has. I think all the pressure to fulfill a masculine ideal would really f***ing suck. Always being told that you are a failure if you don't prove that you are physically strong enough. And not being allowed to express powerful emotions other than anger would be hard. Of course, there are a lot of men who are positive role models or who are able to reject these outmoded stereotypes of what it means to be a man. But growing up with a constant barrage of messaging about this would probably make me really anxious and exhausted if I were a man. You guys getting a boner in the weirdest times and not being able to talk about your feelings and insecurities and shit. Random boners stop after a while. I'm 32 and I never get unwanted erections. I might get a half chub at work if I'm talking to an attractive co-worker about sex or whatever. But it's easy enough to clear my mind and get rid of it. When I was a teenager, though, forget about it. I could jerk off 5 times in a day and still get random unwanted boners. A bit disheartening that most of the responses are about genitalia. Stroke. Folks are blind to their own privilege and others' problems. Having people assume I like to use a 3-in-1 shampoo, conditioner and shower gel combo. Everyone deserves to pamper themselves. What is this shit? But 3-in-1 is faster and makes us look decent. What's so bad about it? Showing emotions and other males thinking you're a pussy. Proud stay-at-home dad here. It all has to do with your circle of friends. I have 3 friends. I stay at home with 3 girls. My friends are an engineer, a car mechanic, and a Navy pilot. We all played football. We still lift weights, drink shitty beer, etc. I mean, we got older and fatter. But we're manly AF. We work with wood and fix lawnmowers. But we're all openly emotional and supportive. We have no problem showing love to one another and talking about our pains and stuff. So it all has to do with the crowd you keep. The lack of anyone to share deep emotions or worries with. As a woman, I can't confide anything in my close friends and get genuine, heartfelt responses. My so says he would never in a million years be willing to share anything like that with his best friend he grew up with because guys just don't do that. So my so has female friends that fill that void. However, for many men, it's deeply frowned upon to have female friends too because it's impossible for men and women to be friends platonically in some people's minds. So it's a lose-lose. Hiding random boners? Or a more serious one as someone that's studying to become a teacher. It's disheartening to see how some people, parents and colleagues alike, sometimes see the male counterparts as possible pedophiles. Like, what is wrong with today's society if a man that loves playing with children and teaching them is way more often seen as a pedophile in comparison to us? I would think the fear of losing your children in a custody battle to a woman that really doesn't deserve them. I've seen this play put more than once in cases where the woman is batshit crazy, or broke, unemployed, and straight admits that she'll just live on the child support and food stamps while the guy works 2+ jobs. The custody courts are biased to mom. And as a woman I find that appalling. Just because I pushed out the kid does not automatically make me the better choice. As a woman, I am the only person who decides when and with whom I reproduce. Birth control is extremely effective and, even if I do get knocked up, I ultimately make the decision to continue or terminate the pregnancy. Aside from the poor souls on I didn't know I was pregnant. Women don't get put on the situation of surprise. Here's our baby. You're stuck with us now. Double quote. Not having this power seems absolutely terrifying. It would suck to be not allowed to interact, care for, show affection to kids unless you're extremely attractive. Like WTF. Feeling the need to suppress your emotions and be the man as a result of age-old societal expectations. Also fearing being called gay when you show the slightest sign of emotion or being sensitive to something, which doesn't make sense. Anyway. Also, I know lots of men deal with depression and are afraid to reach out. I wish they could feel safe enough to do so. Edit. Also, I wanna say that being gay is absolutely not a bad thing and being called it isn't either. I do think, however, it's a weird nonsensical form of bullying which stems from societal homophobia. Not being able to show sadness without it being seen as a hugely vulnerable thing to do. That's not true. As a man, when I'm sad all I have to do is I wait until I'm alone late at night. I get drunk in a dark room and cry until the sadness is all out. I hate it that men can't show their feelings except manly ones like anger. According to statistics, there are more women diagnosed with mental illnesses than men. I don't want to imagine how many men suffer of them but are too afraid to get help. I have a friend who wasn't allowed to cry in front of his family because of this. Years later he wasn't even able to cry. One day he told me proudly that he could shred a tear. Not crying, just a tear. This was heartbreaking, but at the same time I was so proud of him because he came that far. Trying to live up to the ridiculous masculine expectations put on you simply for having a penis. Maybe not the worst but still pretty psychologically damaging would be the lack of compliments, a thing I found out 3 days ago from a different AskReddit thread. I could not imagine trying to go about my daily life with no validation. Please tell your good guy friends that you love them and they're doing good stuff. Even if they train themselves to not need it, they deserve to be complimented anyways. Living in fear of being thought of as unworthy by your best buds, your woman or guy, and your family, all of which have views that often conflicts directly with each other. Damn. This thread is disheartening. I hate how people say men have it so easy. Everyone has it rough. If you don't think that, you need to get decked. Constantly being seen as a threat or danger, especially to kids. Being shamed for so many things, mainly by all your friends. Like feeling emotions, wanting to wear something that only girls wear, being a f-king human being, etc. Close bracket. I imagine it sucks to have to pretend you don't enjoy lovely and beautiful things all the time. I imagine sunsets look just as beautiful to men as they do to me. But I'm allowed to get excited about it. Only getting physical affection from one person if you're in a relationship. Or none otherwise. I hug and cuddle my girlfriends all the time and no one ever looks askance. I imagine that would feel extremely isolating and depressing. I wish guys being close to their friends was normalized, at least in the States. I know in many countries it already is. Dealing with or being around macho type guys who test or question your or their masculinity. The threat of humiliation or bodily harm by assholes. The thought that any spiteful woman could make false allegations of rape or other abuse against you in an attempt to destroy your life and reputation. Gender norms being just as obnoxious. As a random example, I care about insects and go out of my way to get them safely outside when they're in an unwanted place. When it's seen as unwomanly to like insects. I imagine if I did that as a boy it'd seen as unmanly for showing compassion for such a small thing. Just let everyone be themselves and have whatever hobbies or passions they. I've been single for 2 years now and during those 2 years I had 6 Tinder dates and this is how it went. 2 girls never showed up. The other 2 just used me for food and blocked me after the date. And the last 2 girls told me that they had a nice date and wanted to see me again, but when I went home I got blocked as well. Dating site sucks. A face-to-face first impressions is always better. Being a guy. If you say that it's the penis that's the worst part, then you're right. It gets hard sometimes. I'm used to randomly complimenting other girls on things like outfits and hair. Just "you look really nice today" type things. I always thought it was kind of sad that guys didn't ever get compliments like that. I made it my New Year's resolution to compliment guys more. But then 2020 happened. Losing out on a promotion to a less qualified woman because your company decided it needs to hire more women in management. Not being able to get close with friends, hold hands or sit close to each other without being accused of being gay, if that makes sense. Girls can laugh and cuddle on the couch and it's not a big deal, but for some reason it's taboo with guys. Dealing with a penis seems really off-putting emo. I used to wish I had one for convenience's sake, but then I think about it and what the hell. I have so many questions. Do they chafe when you run? Why the hell do they feel the need to announce when you're horny? Are they always sensitive? I mean, the clitoris has all sorts of fatty padding and skin protection. But penises just hang out on their own right there, next to the fabric. And then there's the next layer of hell that would involve being a penisless man. Honestly, what the FCK genitals. Having once been a guy, I can say that the worst thing I experienced was constantly expected to not show emotion or weakness. Stop doing fun things after turning 11. Expected to be fit and muscular and be good at all the sports. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge and all those apps are all the same. Girls talk about how outgoing they are, how they are looking for something real. Then you scroll down a little more and they've linked their Venmo and Cash App. It's insane. I think the worst part about being a guy would be the expectations placed on you. For example, boys don't cry or aren't supposed to show emotion weakness. I've tried to help my guy friends with it, but they just say I don't get it.